It was 11:30 at night when my phone rang. The voice on the other end belonged to a woman named Claire. I had been treating her husband, Arthur, for almost 2 years. Arthur is 68 years old, retired postal worker from Chicago, 34 years carrying mail through rain and snow and summer heat, the kind of man who never complained about anything. He showed up. He did the work. He went home. That was Arthur. Claire was not calling about pain. She was not calling about a fall or a fever. She was calling because Arthur had gotten out of bed, walked to the front door, unlocked it, and stepped outside in his pajamas at 11:15 at night. When she found him on the porch, he looked at her and said, "I need to get to work. They are waiting for my route." Arthur had been retired for 3 years. He did not know where he was. He did not know what year it was. And the look in his eyes, Claire told me, was the thing that terrified her most, because there was nothing behind them, like the lights had gone out. When I saw Arthur the next morning, the first thing I asked him was not about his memory. It was about his sleep. And what he told me confirmed exactly what I had suspected. Arthur had not slept more than 4 hours a night in over 5 years. He would fall asleep around 10 and wake up at 2 in the morning, staring at the ceiling. Every single night. For 5 years. And nobody, not his primary care doctor, not the neurologist his wife had taken him to, nobody had connected his sleep to what was happening to his brain. I am Dr. Margaret Hale, 28 years in integrative medicine and clinical nutrition. And what I'm about to show you is the most important discovery about sleep and brain aging that has been published in the last decade. It involves a system inside your brain that most doctors have never mentioned to you, a system that only activates when you sleep, a system that, when it fails, allows toxic proteins to accumulate inside your brain until they destroy your ability to think, remember, and eventually recognize the people you love. Let me explain what happens inside your brain every single night, or more accurately, what is supposed to happen. Your brain has its own washing system. Scientists call it the glymphatic system. Think of it like the plumbing in your house. During the day, your brain produces waste. Every thought you have, every memory you form, every decision you make generates metabolic byproducts. Toxic proteins. The two most dangerous are called amyloid beta and tau. You may have heard those names before. They are the proteins found in the brains of every single person diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Your brain produces them every day. That is normal. The problem is not that your brain makes them. The problem is what happens when your brain cannot get rid of them. Every night, when you enter deep sleep, something remarkable happens. Your brain cells physically shrink. They contract by up to 60%. And when they shrink, they create channels between them, wide open channels. And through those channels, cerebrospinal fluid rushes in like a pressure washer. It floods through your brain tissue, picks up the amyloid beta, picks up the tau, picks up every toxic protein that accumulated during the day, and flushes it all out through your lymphatic system into your bloodstream, where your liver and kidneys can eliminate it. A groundbreaking study published in Nature Communications in 2026 confirmed this in humans for the first time. Researchers conducted a randomized crossover trial with 39 participants and measured what happened to Alzheimer's disease biomarkers in the blood after a normal night of sleep versus a night of sleep deprivation. The results were stunning. After normal sleep, morning blood levels of amyloid beta and tau were significantly elevated, not because the brain was producing more, because the glymphatic system had successfully flushed them out of the brain and into the bloodstream during the night. After sleep deprivation, those levels dropped. The toxic proteins stayed trapped inside the brain. The washing system had been shut off. This is the part that most people do not understand. Every single night that you sleep poorly, Your brain is not being cleaned. The amyloid beta is not being flushed out. The tau is not being removed. It sits there. It accumulates. Night after night. Week after week. Year after year. And it is not just sitting passively. These proteins are actively destroying your neurons. They form plaques. They tangle around your brain cells. They strangle the connections between neurons until those connections die. And when enough connections die, you start forgetting. First it is small things, a name, a word, where you put your keys. Then it is bigger things, and then it is everything. A massive study published in the Lancet journal eBiomedicine analysed brain scans of 27,500 people from the UK Biobank. Using machine learning, researchers at the Karolinska Institute estimated the biological age of each person's brain based on over 1,000 MRI measurements. What they found should alarm every person over 60. People with poor sleep health had brains that were up to 3 years older than their actual age. And the primary mechanism driving that accelerated aging was systemic inflammation. Poor sleep triggered inflammation throughout the body, and that inflammation attacked the brain directly. 3 years. That means a 65-year-old with chronic poor sleep has the brain of a 68-year-old. A 70-year-old has the brain of a 73-year-old. And that gap is not standing still. It is widening every single year that the sleep problem goes unaddressed because the waste never stops building, the inflammation never stops spreading, and the brain never gets the chance to repair itself. Now think about what happens over 5 years, over 10 years, over the 2 decades between 60 and 80 that many people spend sleeping poorly without ever understanding why it matters. The cumulative damage is staggering, and it is entirely preventable. That is what makes this so urgent. This is not a disease that strikes randomly. This is a process that can be interrupted, slowed, and in many cases reversed if you know what to do. If someone you love is not sleeping well, if a parent, a spouse, a friend over 60 has been waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning and cannot fall back asleep, send them this video right now. Because what I am about to tell you next could be the most important 3 minutes of their life. Here is the question that changed everything for Arthur. And it is the question I now ask every single patient over 60 who comes to me with memory concerns. I ask them, "How is your magnesium?" They always look at me the same way, confused. Because nobody has ever asked them that before. Their neurologist did not ask. Their primary care doctor did not ask. Nobody thought to check the one mineral that their brain desperately needs to clean itself at night. Magnesium is involved in over 600 enzymatic reactions in your body. It regulates your nervous system. It controls muscle relaxation. It governs the electrical signals between your neurons. And critically, it is essential for the deep sleep stages where your glymphatic system activates. Without adequate magnesium, you cannot enter and sustain the deep sleep your brain needs to wash itself clean. Here is the problem. As you age, your body becomes dramatically worse at absorbing and retaining magnesium. Your stomach produces less acid, which impairs mineral absorption. Your kidneys become less efficient at holding onto magnesium. And many of the most common medications prescribed to seniors, blood pressure medications, diabetes drugs, proton pump inhibitors for acid reflux, actively deplete magnesium from your body. Studies analysing the National Health and Nutrition Survey found that among 2,508 adults aged 60 and older, higher magnesium intake was independently associated with significantly better cognitive function across every category tested. But here is the critical part that almost nobody knows. Not all magnesium is the same. And most forms of magnesium that you can buy at any pharmacy cannot do the one thing that matters most. They cannot reach your brain. Your brain is protected by a barrier called the blood-brain barrier. It is like a security checkpoint. It decides what gets in and what stays out. Most forms of magnesium, magnesium oxide, magnesium citrate, magnesium glycinate, they stop at that checkpoint. They help your muscles. They help your digestion. They help you relax. But they do not cross into your brain in meaningful amounts. Your neurons never receive them. There is one form of magnesium that crosses that barrier. It is called Magnesium L-threonate. L-threonate is a natural metabolite of vitamin C, and it has a unique property. It uses glucose transporters, the same channels your brain uses to receive sugar for energy, to carry magnesium directly across the blood-brain barrier and into your neurons. Research published in the journal Neuron showed that when magnesium L-threonate reaches the brain, it does something extraordinary. It increases the density of synapses in your hippocampus, the memory center of your brain. More synapses means more connections between neurons. More connections means stronger memory. The researchers also found that it enhanced long-term potentiation, the process by which your brain strengthens the connections it uses most often. In simple terms, it made the brain better at learning and remembering. Think of it this way. Imagine your brain is a library. The synapses are the shelves. The memories are the books. As you age and your magnesium drops, the shelves start collapsing. Books fall to the floor. You cannot find what you are looking for because the organization system is falling apart. Magnesium L-threonate rebuilds the shelves. It does not just slow the collapse, it actually builds new ones. And when the shelves are back in place, the books are easier to find again. I cannot be in every city. I cannot sit across from every person who is watching their parent forget. That is why I created the Cellular Reset. It is my complete guide to rebuilding the systems inside your body that are breaking down with age, starting with your brain. Every protocol, every measurement, every timing detail. The link is in the pinned comment below this video. Now let me show you the clinical proof, because this is not theory. This is not my opinion. This was tested in a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial, the gold standard of medical evidence. A study published in Frontiers in Nutrition in January of 2026 took 100 adults with self-reported poor sleep and divided them into two groups. One group received 2 grams of magnesium L-threonate daily. The other received a placebo. Neither the participants nor the researchers knew who was getting what. After 6 weeks, the researchers measured cognitive age using validated neurological tests. The magnesium group experienced 7.5 years of cognitive rejuvenation compared to the placebo group. Let me repeat that. 6 weeks of taking this mineral before bed reversed 7.5 years of cognitive aging. Their working memory improved. Their reaction time improved. Their sleep-related impairment scores improved. And their physiological markers of nighttime recovery, including resting heart rate and heart rate variability, all moved in the right direction. 6 weeks, 1 mineral, 7.5 years younger. If you find this kind of science-backed information valuable, make sure you subscribe to this channel. I release new research every week, and the algorithm does not show it to you unless you are subscribed. I do not want you to miss what is coming next. Now here is the exact protocol. This is what I gave Arthur. And this is what I recommend to every patient over 60 who comes to me with sleep problems or memory concerns. Every night, 90 minutes before bed, take 2 grams of magnesium L-threonate. This is typically divided into 2 capsules. Take them with a small glass of water. Not with food, not with other supplements. On its own. The 90-minute window is critical because it takes approximately that long for the L-threonate to cross the blood-brain barrier and begin raising magnesium levels in your brain. Then, in the last 5 minutes before you close your eyes, do the same deep breathing I teach every patient. Breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold for 4 seconds. Breathe out through your mouth for 6 seconds. The extended exhale activates your vagus nerve, which tells your nervous system it is safe to enter deep sleep. This is the deep sleep where your glymphatic system turns on, where the washing begins, where the amyloid beta gets flushed out. During the day, support your magnesium levels with food. The richest dietary sources are dark, leafy greens like spinach and Swiss chard, pumpkin seeds, almonds, dark chocolate, with at least 70% cacao, and avocados. 1 cup of cooked spinach contains 157 milligrams of magnesium. A quarter cup of pumpkin seeds contains 190 milligrams. These foods do not replace the L-threonate supplement because they cannot cross the blood-brain barrier. But they support every other system in your body that depends on magnesium, and there are over 600 of them. I also want you to add one more thing to your evening routine. A cup of Tart cherry juice, unsweetened, about 60 minutes before bed. Tart cherries are one of the only natural food sources of melatonin. They also contain powerful anti-inflammatory compounds called anthocyanins that reduce the systemic inflammation that the Karolinska study identified as the primary driver of sleep-related brain aging. You are attacking the problem from 2 directions simultaneously. The magnesium L-threonate rebuilds your brain from the inside while you sleep. The Tart cherry juice helps you get into the deep sleep where the rebuilding happens. And the breathing activates the nerve that tells your brain it is time to start the washing cycle. That is the complete protocol. Magnesium L-threonate, 90 minutes before bed. Tart cherry juice, 60 minutes before bed. 5 minutes of deep breathing with extended exhale as the last thing you do before closing your eyes. 3 steps, less than 3 minutes of active effort. And your brain finally gets the cleaning it has been begging for. Now let me tell you the 3 mistakes that are destroying your sleep and accelerating your brain aging. Mistake number 1. Screens before bed. The blue light emitted by your phone, your tablet, and your television suppresses melatonin production by up to 50%. Melatonin is the hormone that signals your brain to enter deep sleep. Without it, you stay in light sleep stages, where the glymphatic system barely activates. Your brain does not get cleaned. The rule is simple. No screens for 60 minutes before bed. If you must read, use a physical book or an e-reader with no backlight. Mistake number 2. Eating within 3 hours of bedtime. When you eat late, your body diverts blood flow and energy to digestion instead of brain maintenance. Your core body temperature stays elevated, which prevents the natural drop your body needs to enter deep sleep. Studies show that late-night eating reduces time spent in deep sleep by up to 20%. That is 20% less time your brain has to flush out toxic proteins. Mistake number 3. Over-the-counter sleep aids. Millions of seniors take diphenhydramine, the active ingredient in most pharmacy sleep aids, every single night. These medications are anticholinergic, which means they block acetylcholine, one of the most important neurotransmitters for memory and learning. Research has shown that long-term use of anticholinergic medications increases the risk of dementia significantly. These pills may help you fall asleep, but they are preventing the deep sleep stages where your brain actually cleans itself. You are unconscious, but your brain is not being washed. It is the worst possible combination. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me, how many hours are you sleeping each night? Have you ever had your magnesium levels tested? Tell me your story, because I read every single comment And next week, I am going to address the most common questions about brain health and aging that I receive from this community. Let me tell you what to expect when you start this protocol. In the first week, most patients notice they fall asleep faster. Not dramatically, maybe 10 or 15 minutes sooner, but they notice. By week 2, the quality of sleep changes. Patients tell me they wake up feeling different, not just rested, clearer. Like a fog they did not know was there has started to lift. By week 4, the cognitive improvements begin. You start finding words faster. You remember where you put things. You recall names that had been slipping. By week 8, the changes are significant enough that other people notice. Your family notices. Your friends notice. They say things like, "You seem sharper. You seem more like yourself." Let me tell you what happened with Arthur, because his story is the reason I made this video. I put Arthur on 2 grams of Magnesium L-threonate every night, 90 minutes before bed. I removed all screens from his bedroom. I moved his dinner to 6:30, 3 hours before his target bedtime of 9:30. I eliminated the over-the-counter sleep aid he had been taking for 2 years, and I added the 5-minute breathing protocol. The first week, Claire called to tell me Arthur slept until 4:30. That was 2.5 hours longer than he had slept in 5 years. She was cautious. She did not want to hope too much. By week 3, Arthur was sleeping until 5:30, and he was waking up calm, not confused, not disoriented, calm. By week 6, I ran a full cognitive assessment. Arthur's working memory had improved by 19%. His reaction time had improved by 23%. His verbal recall, the ability to hear a list of words and repeat them back, had improved by 27%. In 6 weeks, Arthur sat in my office and looked at his wife. He did not say anything for a long time. Then he looked at me and said, "I can think again." I did not even realize I had stopped. Claire started crying, not because of the numbers, because the night before, Arthur had woken up at 2 in the morning, looked at her sleeping next to him, and gone back to sleep. He did not get up. He did not walk to the door. He did not think he needed to deliver mail. He just closed his eyes and went back to sleep. And in the morning, he remembered her name before she said a word. 3 months later, Arthur came to my office for a follow-up. He brought something with him, a stack of handwritten letters. He had been writing to his grandchildren. 3 letters, one for each grandchild, telling them stories from his years as a postal worker. Stories he had not been able to remember 6 months ago. Stories about the dogs on his route, the woman who left him cookies every Tuesday, the blizzard of 1993 when he was the only carrier who made it through. He looked at me and said, "I thought those memories were gone." They were not gone. They were just locked in a room that nobody had the key to. And now the door is open again. If you know someone who has been struggling with sleep for years and nobody has ever checked their magnesium, send them this video. Because what I just showed you costs less than $1 a day and has more published clinical evidence behind it than any brain supplement on the market. Everything I covered today, the glymphatic system, the toxic protein mechanism, the Magnesium L-threonate research, the exact protocol, every food, every measurement, every timing detail, it is all inside the Cellular Reset. My complete guide to rebuilding every system in your body from the inside out. The link is in the pinned comment. And next week, I am going to show you the one spice that 95% of people over 60 are eating wrong. When you prepare it correctly, it dissolves arterial plaque and reactivates stem cells. The difference is one single step that takes 10 seconds. Your brain is not failing you. It has been calling for help every single night. It has been trying to clean itself, trying to flush the toxins, trying to rebuild the connections. But without the right mineral, without deep sleep, the washing system stays shut off, and the waste keeps building, night after night, year after year. Arthur gave his brain what it needed, and 6 weeks later, he could think again. The choice is yours, and it starts tonight. I am Dr. Margaret Hale, and I will see you in the next video.